response piece to gun violence, gun control, and gun rights in the U.S. Actually, Jacob Gunter of Twin Radius asked me about a month ago, a little bit after the Vegas shooting, if I was interested in creating a response piece. He was familiar with my other work, which often deals with social issues and statistics and kind of trauma and violence in different ways, and thought that I might be a good artist to approach this issue. And I was like, yes, but I have to wait about 3 weeks before I can even begin to install. And within that time, unfortunately, like literally the day before I was supposed to start installing the piece, another mass shooting had occurred at a church in Texas. And so I was immediately like super frustrated, because it's sort of one of those things where it's like I know legitimately that I'll never run out of material about this issue if I continue to address it in my work. I was talking to someone earlier tonight, and they were like, it feels very like there's a lot of tension in this piece. And I was like, I think my frustration was coming through in my mark making and the colors I was choosing. And I don't work with super broad palettes when I paint or draw anyways, but there is something even I can see in this work that is like maybe a stronger reflection of my own sort of like inner turmoil right now, and sort of like almost like pent up like frustration about what is happening and like the lack of conversation. The piece itself is a multimedia installation on a wall, so it's essentially a large drawing of many different mediums, and it includes imagery and textures and things that basically reference various statistics as they relate to guns in the U.S. And it also sort of, some of the imagery also references the history of the Second Amendment. I do a lot of work around domestic violence outside of this, and one of the sort of statistics that I've always been interested in, but also wanted to directly reference in this piece, is that in a domestic violence situation, a woman is 5 times as likely to be killed if there's a gun present in the home. And that's a huge number, and unfortunately also most mass shootings, one of the common denominators of the shooters is that they have a domestic violence history. So that's one of the statistics I wanted to reference very specifically. And I did that actually using female figures in the image. Then there's other things that are a little bit more abstract. So there's these 14 X's on the mural, on the piece, and those 14 X's specifically reference the fact that black men are 14 times as likely to be killed by guns than white men in the U.S. There's in the text of the Second Amendment, which is included in the mural, there's 93 dashes that interrupt the text and sort of like interfere with it, and that's the number of people who are killed daily in the U.S. By guns, for many different reasons, from mass shootings to suicides to accidental deaths, any number of reasons, right? And then just around the church image, which was directly inspired by the shooting in Texas, there's another set of vertical dashes that are sort of like removed from the kind of interrupt the image and the text around the church. And there's 208 of those, and that's the number of folks who have been killed due to mass shootings in the U.S. this year, in 2017. The phrase thoughts and prayers, and including it in the mural, I see a lot of people being frustrated with that phrase, and I think I share that frustration specifically. I'm very action-oriented these days, and I think thoughts and prayers are super important and very necessary, but it's almost like I'd rather somebody say thoughts and prayers and here's what I'm going to do next. When I read articles, or if I watch people react to these events, it feels like people want to shut down conversation rather than have it, and that's on both sides of the aisle, right? There's a lot of complexity in those who support gun rights and those who support gun control, and the relationship between those things, I think, to the detriment of sort of working towards better solutions, is often simplified in a way that is is problematic. There's so much nuance to what everybody's talking about when they're like trying to fight for what they want. And I think that my hope is that in the work that I do, that some of that complexity comes through, and some of that the need for a broader understanding of the issue is very necessary. There's often like the literal space art provides. Like it seems, I don't know, maybe it might seem too simple, but like the fact that there's a literal space where art exists that is talking about something that may be difficult for people to talk about, often is an accessible like entry point for people to have that conversation. As an artist, I do a lot of work around representation of trauma, and I'm often trying to figure out then how do you get to the point where you're representing like what the future could be, right? Which is a huge power of art, and it's something I actually really struggle with because I'm not sure how to imagine what that could look like. Maybe I'm like too entrenched in like the what's happening right now. I don't know, maybe it would literally just be people having a conversation. Like I wonder if there's a way to just like show how different people can come together and really just talk to each other. Like I'm not sure what imagery I would use to show that, but like that's like my ideal world where people are like actually talking to each other and listening, and no matter how different their beliefs are, which is a really hard thing to do. Like I acknowledge that I'm not good at that all the time. Like I'm terrible at it sometimes, but I think that the more we challenge ourselves to like listen to folks who are very different from us, you know, I think that we become better for it. So maybe something like that, maybe people just talking to each other and really talking to each other, you know.